Good evening, everyone. Do you remember career day when, they asked you what you want to be when you grow up? Some of us said we want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, all of those traditional scientists, dancer, whatever you said or whatever you thought of. And my son recently just graduated preschool and he had a ceremony. And when he had the ceremony, they asked all the kids, what you want to be when you grow up. And they said teacher, doctor, lawyer, police officer, dancer, scientist. And I thought to myself, boy, when life is so simple, you have these ideas, and sometimes you grow up to be exactly what you say you want to be. But what life doesn't show you is your profession is not all of who you are. It's a big chunk, but it's not everything. And as you grow and you get older, you start to realize that who you are is a complex individual with different facets of your personality, ideologies, values, principles, cultural identities, and it's not as one dimensional as we think. And as you get older, I think everybody gets to a place where they start to question who they are, and not just who they are, but who they're becoming. I've gotten there. I'm a pastor's kid and a single mother, and life didn't turn out exactly the way that I expected, but I'm not upset. I think I've handled things the best with what I've been given sometimes, and I think that while it didn't turn out the way I expected, I think, I'm in a good place. But I'm still at a place right now where I'm questioning whom who I'm becoming. And that doesn't mean that you have to have a midlife crisis or you're breaking down. But I also think it's a healthy thing to do. I watch people in my family, I watch adults older than me, and you see them go through life sometimes and they get to a place where they have all this wisdom, but their life doesn't compute or doesn't translate to the wisdom that they have. They give you such amazing advice, but when you look at the quality of their lives, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it's not what they give. And I think the reason for that sometimes is because while we're living this journey in our 30s, in our 40s, we just keep pushing. Sometimes it doesn't feel right. Sometimes the career you're in doesn't feel right. Sometimes the relationship you're in doesn't feel right. Sometimes the way you're living, it doesn't feel quite right. But we don't stop and reflect and potentially dismantle, because I think the way we're taught is that you should have already figured all that out before you got to where you are, before you got to your 30s, before you got to your 40s. And the truth is, it's not true. You grow so much in your 30s, and you grow at any age. But I think, life starts to really get real after a certain point, not so superficial. And you realize that your identity is complex, your passions, your desires, your ideals, and you were raised with certain values and traditions and cultural identities and dogma. Sometimes my family is very religious. As I said, I'm a pastor's kid. So I was raised with a certain ideal about God and religion and what's right or wrong. And for a good portion of my life, I just took it as fact. I didn't question it. And as I'm getting older, as I started to discover the Bible, God, things, these concepts for myself, after I became a mother and I had a son, and I thought about what I wanted to pass down to him, I started to question, do I want to give this to him? Do I want to pass this down? Do I want to teach him this? And sometimes you get taught in some cultures and some homes that it's not okay to question certain things. They just are. They've always been, they just are. And that's how it's supposed to be. And I've learned that that's not what I want to give my son. I don't want to teach him that it's not okay to doubt and it's not okay to question. It's not okay to stay in a doubtful place. But it's okay to ask questions. And if you're being honest, if you have read the Bible for yourself, you realize the Bible is full of people who question God, if that's an example that you want to use. And he didn't get upset. He didn't get offended when you read the stories. He entertained the questions. And I think it's healthy to question yourself. I think it's healthy to self-reflect, to rediscover, to dismantle. I'm in a place also where I'm starting to realize I'm going through relationships, platonic and romantic, and I find myself sometimes being triggered because there's still some deep wounds that I'm dealing with. Psychological wounds, emotional wounds, wounds from my childhood that haven't fully healed, and they're playing out in my interactions and my relationships. And in some ways, they hinder me. And I think if you don't ever take the time to dig deep, figure out who you're becoming, and confirm that this is who you want to be, then you can go through life with kind of an arbitrary attitude and just reacting and doing and pushing, but not really living. I'm in a place where I'm realizing I have these gifts and abilities and things that I'm good at that don't fit traditional ideas or, the things that I thought I wanted to do. Who I thought I wanted to be is kind of changing. And I'm in my 30s. And I also am in a place where I want to maximize the potential of who I am. And in order to do that, you got to grow. And sometimes in order to grow, you have to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable doing things that you wouldn't normally do. I'm extremely shy and private, and I'm doing a blog. So this is me trying to become everything that I know I'm supposed to be. I talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of friends that come to me for advice about different things. And, sometimes the things I say to them, they resonate and they tell me that I help them in areas. And people have always said, maybe you should consider doing something like this. And I've always felt like, no, I can't do it because I'm not together enough. My life isn't perfect. Who wants to listen to me when I have issues? But we all got issues. And I decided to do this for a few reasons. I want to come out my shell. I want to stop being so shy. And I want to be more comfortable in my own skin expressing myself, because it's actually something that I realize I'm good at doing. And while doing that, there's a lot of people who have a lot of emotional issues, things that they're dealing with, questions about themselves, questions about God, questions about their ideals, questions about their values, questioning their relationships, and not really knowing where to start, and not knowing if it's okay to be in the middle of a relationship or the middle of life that you've been living for how many plus years and say, I'm not sure if I want to do this anymore the way that I've been doing it. And I think that at any time you get ready to ask yourself that question, it's okay. It's okay to self-reflect. As a matter of fact, I recommend it. I think it's healthy. I think it promotes growth. And I think if anything, it starts to catapult you into the person that God always intended you to be. So while I go on this journey of rediscovering, dismantling, exposing a little, I plan to be raw. I plan to be open. And I'm hoping that by doing that, maybe I'll encourage you to do the same in your own personal lives. Maybe I'll help you in some way. I do believe that's part of my life path, to help people, to help others by expressing myself. So I guess I'm testing that out. I hope. And if I do, if I say anything that resonates with you, please comment. I'm going to leave an email address at the bottom that you can send emails to if you don't want to leave it on the video and you want to send me something a little bit more private. So, welcome on this journey with me as I question God, question relationships and the concepts of love that that I've been given, as I question just so many different things about myself and tackle it, and maybe there'll be things that you deal with too. Welcome. I hope you enjoy the time that we spend together. And I know sometimes it's hard to do it, so let's begin with me. Good night.